Hello, everyone. Let's paint a Lunar New Year set based on this key art from a Love in Deep Space event. I'm gonna talk through some of the things that I did technique-wise, but also just kind of chat about what Claws of Hatred is and why I started painting press-on nails in the first place. This is a long video, so don't worry. Even if I miss some of the technique things, I will likely talk about them later on in the video. I can say plenty. This set took me 15 hours to paint, by the way, so this is like less than a 10% view of how long this actually took me. So I created Claws of Hatred based out of, obviously during, 2020 when we couldn't go to salons and get nails like done by our favorite techs. I started painting my own nails and started with, the usual like gel extensions. I switched to doing both soft gel and then hard gel overlays, and it was just a lot of work. Like trying to do art with my non-dominant hand always left me really frustrated. And I tried press-ons during like the height of 2020 and bought from like a, random shop on Etsy when I started trying to find designs that I liked, and they 110% did not fit. I just assumed like maybe it was just a thing that they didn't work for me. And I even tried buying, press-ons from like my old tech at the time, which her work is fantastic. So it was by no means either of the artist's fault. Come to find out, I have very sculpted nail beds. And so just measuring the width of my nails did not work for buying press-ons the way people usually do. Like coin method doesn't work on me, and using any kind of like tape measurement doesn't really work on me. I can't just go off a straight width. And a lot of people don't really compensate for curvature very well. And so I think it was like the end of 2023 or so, I had a friend come over while I was painting a set on myself. And she was like, I don't know, I feel like your art's really evolved over the last few years. You should think about making press-ons for people. And for some reason, it had never crossed my mind. Started looking into it a little bit, started testing a couple sets on my own, and then pretty immediately thought, you know what, I'm going to switch over fully because I could take my time painting designs. I could come back to it, another day if I didn't have time to finish. I didn't have to force myself to paint designs straight on my hands for 6 hours, in a row. Like I could break it up. And I've always considered myself artistic, but not with traditional medium. Like I've never spent the time to really, other than, in college, because my art is technically an art degree, didn't really spend a lot of time honing foundational skills other than, again, in college. So I don't know, for some reason I just thought like, is this something that I'm artistic enough to do? Is this something that like people would even want to buy my art? But I'm so glad that I listened to the friend who suggested it, because it's been such a joy painting sets for other people and getting to express my creativity in this way. Like it comes to me in such a way that feels very natural. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy trying new techniques. I enjoy trying to put together, cohesive sets from people's inspos, whether that's like very specific references they give me or whether it's just a vague, I want forest fairy vibes or whatever the prompt is. Like I love that. This set in particular is one that I really loved painting for myself. The key art has almost like a sketchy watercolor feel to it, and it has a lot of East Asian inspiration in it, which Love in Deep Space is made by a Chinese developer, so that shouldn't be like a huge surprise. But it was the first time that I have tried to paint really detailed landscape style painting on press-on, so it was a fun challenge in that sense. You can see that I used a 12mm liner to do the art for pretty much the entire portraits. I filled in the space with like a wider brush, the white base, but for the most part, like all of the color application, all of the very fine blending that I did was all using a 12mm liner brush. I'm pretty sure I used the same brush the entire set. Maybe I had 2 other ones nearby for like, like the browns that are in this, some of the lighter colors or like reds and oranges and then greens and blues, but I honestly think I just clean off the same brush and use it the entire time. So I started by doing the textured base, which is a thing that I've been playing around with. I used all like glass jelly base colors for this set. Most of them are from the Doper Than Your Nails gloss collection. I think I also used some other ones, like maybe some debug shades. I can't remember 100%. I'll have to look at the product list. Yeah, so I start with the like glass jelly base, and then I go in with a textured nuance gel, and then I pearl chromed that, and then did a base layer to even that out so I could do the art on top of that. And then it really is just like a bunch of wet blending, which is a tip that I got from Studio Senlin. I was getting really frustrated with blending things, and it wasn't happening the way that I saw it in my brain. And I think my brain was just like, you need to cure each of the layers because this is gel. And she was like, girl, no. Just do it like wet blending, like you would a regular painting. And I'm like, oh, like mind blown. That seems so obvious, and yet I didn't even think of that. So definitely made this a lot easier. So I just did that the entire time. I basically just looked at the reference and just went for it. I tend to overthink. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. If watching this 12-minute long video didn't give you that hint. Yeah, I used a combination of like Croissant Pat Pat gel palette, the first version that with the solid colors. I used a Nail and Yali, like it's kind of like a glass jelly palette. They're a little more opaque than like the base shade that I used here, but it's great for blending. With this this is actually not a 12mm liner, as you can see. It's like a plaid width kind of thing, just like filling in space and even lines, but I kind of stippled the texture for these plants on, and then I did go back in with a smaller liner brush just to create some of the deeper shadows, and then I'll blend that out just to, you know, diffuse it a little bit and then go on with highlight. So creating the foliage underneath the like gate entrance. I feel like a lot of this is very trust the process. You start painting and it kind of just looks like blobs, right? Which, you know, if you think about it a little deeper than surface level, that's kind of just what painting is. But anyway, without getting too philosophical, adding in some of those highlights, just stippling, blending, creating a lot of the shadows and depth and going in with that later. And then there's like a, how do I describe it? It's like a mountain range kind of in the background of the other half of this landscape. So I'm going in and adding some of those color details in the mountain range in the back. The set was really enjoyable to make. I was surprised by how much I really loved this design. I went super hard with it, like in addition to textured base, which can make things a little bit thicker. Afterwards, I filed the underside and pre-etched all of these, which helps massively for retention. But in addition to that, it keeps the thickness of the tips just a little bit thinner because you can kind of correct a bit of it on the sides. Also to ensure the sizing works, because these are soft gel tips and I love soft gel tips for myself. They are super flexible. And so if you paint sculpted tips, sometimes they can shrink depending on how you keep the sides even. So I just like to go in and fix some of that. Yeah, adding in a little cherry blossom tree here, and then I'm gonna even all of that out with base coat. Supplies by Chloe is my go-to for base coat, matte coat. Glossy top coat is literally my ride or die. I've said that in other videos, but this is the other half of the nail. It's very similar. It's got like a mountain landscape, kind of just a single building versus the other nail is a gate. So the key art that I mentioned is all of the landscapes are from different sections of the key art, and then each piece, each landscape painting is bordered by East Asian inspired architectural elements, mostly like specifically Chinese windows. So if you've gone to, you know, any kind of like International Peace Garden, or if you look up like really fancy buildings in a lot of East Asia, they have these like beautifully shaped, intricate windows where the whole framing of the window is essentially these patterns. And I thought that would be a really cool way to tie into, you know, a lot of the cultural references from the Lunar New Year banner that was in Love and Deep Space, but also they just look really beautiful. So I picked different architectural designs for each of the frames. So each of the nails has either one half of the frame design. So no two nails have the same frame, which was just super extra, but I think it turned out really nicely. I chromed the frames with rose gold because I thought just a nice softer, it's not really neutral, you know, but this specific tone of rose gold. And then after I chrome, I go in and seal with a liquid etch or primer. It just helps lock in the like loose pigment. And then after that, I'll go in with the Jinbi Ivy liner that you saw and just cover the chrome specifically before I base coat and then top coat. And I found that that kind of sandwich of elements really helps prevent any kind of chrome rub off afterward. I wore them for a trip. I had them on for like 2-ish weeks, which isn't a super long time, but they're long almond. So after 2-ish weeks, I go kind of crazy having nails this long. I love having longer nails because it makes my hands look very elegant and lean, but I can't roll up my car windows with long nails on because they're so long that like when I tuck my finger under, you know, the button to roll up and down your window, it just doesn't, I just can't. I have to use my opposite hand to get my knuckle like under the button. So, but yeah, I mean, they held up with removal. I remove all of my press-ons with press-off. I use Color Me Carol, but specifically we have exclusive scents in collaboration with her. So I use my own press-off product, or scent, I should say, Carol's product. But yeah, they remained intact despite the removal. And sometimes if you use too much of it, it can affect, you know, matte or chromed surfaces. And they were all completely fine afterward. The sandwich works, I'm promising. Like I tell you, you gotta try it if you haven't, or if you have issues with chrome rubbing off. On top of this half of the frame, I did fishes for Rafayel. So each of the nails, well, every other nail has a reference to one of the love interests. So like Caleb's are on the thumbs, I have Xavier's on one, Zane's on one, this is Rafayel's, and then Silas is on another. So I did the little entwined fishies for this one. The fishes are so pretty. Like their little iridescent tails and some of the blue jelly details were so fun to have. This is actually one of my favorite nails, and it's so funny because Raphael's probably my least favorite love interest. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see the full completed set, find me at Claws of Hatred on Insta and TikTok. See you next time.